Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Andrea Myers, bringing you your daily hail forecast, sponsored as always by C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor, and Atlas. And they're there, as always, for you guys in our description, so go ahead and check out all of their pages on the Facebook. Today, we've got mega hail on the agenda for parts of the northern plains here, particularly Nebraska. You guys could potentially see some pretty large hail storms as well as tornadoes in today's risk. So watching that area, it is pretty rural out there, so that's some good news. However, Red River is also in the risk for today. Parts of Oklahoma, North Texas, Dallas, you guys are in it, as well as the Texas Panhandle. We got a lot of folks under today's hail and wind risks, so we'll cover it all. And then getting into the end of the week, we still have more risks to come for tomorrow, for Saturday. And now there's a new tropical system heading towards the east coast of the U.S. So tons on the table to talk about here. We'll get into it all shortly. So for our upper jet stream pattern right now, got that low pressure system that's swinging out to the east. Anything that kind of wiggles off of that, any kind of wiggly lines you see there, are what are going to be driving the storms into today through this weekend. So there we go by Friday afternoon, seeing that moving into the North Plains, staying out that way, then swinging now towards the Mississippi Valley on the eastern side of this low is where we could potentially see those storms into the beginning of your weekend. And we'll see if that continues to drive off to the east through the beginning of next week. But bottom line, tons to talk about. All right, so storms are already ongoing through North Plains here, South Dakota, Nebraska. We got this whole band of some heavy rain and some cloud cover right now. This should continue to go on through the afternoon, and then we'll see more development where it's a little bit clearer down to the south. Down in the Red River area, also got some rain. It's more to the west here, but also got some rain and showers going on through there. But more of the same of what we're seeing in the northern plains. Storms are expected to develop where it's a little bit clearer into this afternoon and evening. All right, so 70s and 80s pretty much across the board here out east of that low pressure system, and cooling down pretty significantly once we get out to the west. 56 degrees in Portland once you're on the west side of that low, 70 degrees in Denver out to the east. So this thing's bringing some cooler air, bringing those storm chances into the central plains for right now, and then tracking a little bit further east as we move out in time. There's that dry line sitting in the, I guess, high plains of Nebraska, in the Texas Panhandle as well. 41-degree dew points out in Denver, up to 66 in Wichita. So it's pretty humid out ahead of that disturbance, and that dry air is moving in along with that cooler air, and that gets us some good instability. So we got those bright colors tracking through Nebraska, through Kansas into this afternoon and evening, and that just means that we do have a potential for large hail here into today. Thinking we could see some baseballs, however, it will stay pretty rural and isolated. So good news, bad news there into today's forecast, depending on how you want to see that. But baseballs possible through Nebraska. And here's what it's looking like into the coming hours. Got those storms, again, going to kind of linger in the Nebraska-South Dakota border here. And then there we are by 5 p.m. Starting to break apart a little bit, and then we get some isolated storms forming just south of North Platte on this run, tracking into the Hastings area. Those are potentially our large hail producers as well as our tornado producers, anything that stays alone. And then as it tracks east, everything kind of clusters together, gets really messy, really rainy, really fast, and then starts to produce potentially some high winds tracking into eastern Nebraska. And South Dakota is just going to get a ton of rain into today with this system kind of just sitting over it. Then in the South Plains here, we got these storms that are going to continue off to the east into this afternoon and evening, and then there we are by 7 p.m. Got a whole complex through eastern Oklahoma. That's probably going to be a wind producer, but anything down to the south like Nebraska, that stays isolated, could potentially produce some larger hail. And then out through the West Texas area, we do have some isolated storms. That's usually good news for hail. However, they're going to be really high based. It's really dry near the surface, so any hail that does fall is going to have trouble maintaining any large sizes. So that's kind of the issue you guys are working with out that way. Still a hail risk, but likely smaller out for you. DFW, looking like things moving into your area in the overnight hours. And it should be mostly a wind risk by then, but potentially could see some quarters into tonight. So rounding that all out, putting it all together, here's your hail forecast into today. Kind of a wonky little shape there, but we do have some purple on the map for you guys in central Nebraska, as well as some ping pong to golf balls possible along the Red River and in southeastern Oklahoma. So starting out up north, got much of southern South Dakota is going to be in that $quarter to $half risk and just seeing a ton of rain today. Once we move south with those isolated storms, that's where that purple comes from. So pretty much kind of in between North Platte and Hastings right now. That's the area that's looking best for baseballs at this moment. So purple for you guys, and then it's a moderate risk across the board with those scattered storms. Colby, you got a chance for large hail, same with Dodge City. And then once we track down south, again, mostly quarters from Amarillo down into Midland, as well as parts of eastern New Mexico. Oklahoma City, Fort Smith, Dallas, probably metro areas are going to skip where you could see the largest hail with those storms. They're going to really kind of stick to right around the Red River. So ping pong to golf ball for anyone in that area. The rest of us have a pretty low chance to see any significant hail in that region. So for wind, now we got potential to see some 60-mile-an-hour gusts or higher, probably sticking mostly around 60 mile an hour though, in the North Platte, Hastings area once again. And then low-end chance for pretty much everybody else. You know, if you're out in eastern Oklahoma where we have that larger hail threat, potential to see some more solid gusts, like more frequent gusts of 60 miles an hour. Everyone else is just going to be a couple with some isolated storms that track through. But tornadoes are still going to be on the table for pretty much both of our higher end risk areas here. If you're up in Nebraska, pretty much like right in that central part of the state, you know, again, where we're seeing those isolated storms tracking through, that's where we could potentially see some rotating storms, and those rotating updrafts help produce that large hail. They also produce tornadoes. So that's kind of why we got you guys in that risk into today. And then, you know, like right between OKC, Fort Smith, and DFW is where you could get a very brief and isolated tornado chance down that way. Then getting into tomorrow, all right, so more to come, and it's really going to be through that same corridor that we're seeing intense storms today, and it's going to double back and repeat into tomorrow. So 1 p.m., got a whole complex of storms tracking into Rapid City. Those aren't going to be doing any prolific severe weather. Now, if we see anything isolated tracking down through like Nebraska, it's going to be very conditional at that point because our models are only picking up on it every now and then, but those could potentially produce some pretty large hail. And then anything that forms out behind that main complex and stays isolated. This risk right up north where we're seeing more storms are going to be more concentrated, so a more solid risk, I guess. Is this every day? So we're going through Saturday right now. This complex, this whole low pressure system is tracking off to the east, and so it's just spitting out risks today, tomorrow, into Saturday. And then we'll update you guys on Sunday if it keeps pushing things out east. But right now, yeah, we do have risks out for the next 72 hours, so got a lot to cover for y'all. But yeah, the best part of the risk is going to be up through South Dakota into tomorrow. So watching that all move off to the east, more rain for you. Got lots of heavy rain, thunder, showers, but this shouldn't be doing a whole lot of severe weather into your Saturday morning. This weather report. Oh yeah, we go live every day at noon. It's every weekday at noon. And then if there's any, you know, major storms hitting metro areas, we go live as well. So if you hit see first on Facebook, and I think there's like a notification bell or something, you should get notified whenever we're live. But yeah, it's at noon Central Time every weekday. So there's your hail forecast into tomorrow. Gonna keep everybody in the low end for right now. See if anything pops up in Nebraska more consistently getting into tomorrow's forecast. And then up north through South Dakota, could potentially see a little bit of more activity up that way. So low end across the board for now, but could potentially see some ping pong to golf ball sized stones through that orange highlighted area, and we'll update you guys on what that looks like into tomorrow's forecast. And then got wind for you as well. Again, if you're in Rapid City, if you're in Sioux Falls, Omaha, North Platte, you guys have a chance into tomorrow to see that severe weather tracking through. And then it should push into the Mississippi Valley for your Saturday. So you know, you got that warm air streaming up into the Central Plains, and then that low is going to try to bring all that cool air out east. So where those two are kind of at battle, that's when you tend to see that severe weather working its way through, and that's what the Mississippi Valley will be experiencing into Saturday. So got a really solid dry line set up here too. You can see that super stark here by Saturday at 6 p.m. tracking through Nebraska, Kansas, and then pushing into the Mississippi Valley into the evening and overnight. And so again, just where you get super different air masses, you tend to get storms. And so it's going to spark some instability into your Saturday afternoon and evening. There we are in the kind of peak heating of the day, or around it, into the Mississippi Valley, and then those storms are going to kind of eat away at that instability. But basically, all environmental conditions are lining up to produce some severe storms into your Saturday, potentially a long weekend for folks into the Mississippi Valley. So there goes your line of storms. Depending on what mode this takes, that's going to show us what dominant severe threat there is. If it goes linear, that's when we could produce more winds. If we get anything that's kind of broken apart, especially near the bottom of that line, we could potentially get some large hail. So got to watch that into Saturday as it moves off through Iowa, through Missouri, through Arkansas, and see what risk that produces into the weekend. And we'll update you guys, of course. But there's the folks that could potentially be seeing some severe weather for your Saturday, all the way from Texas up into the Dakotas again and Minnesota. So again, if you're in today's, tomorrow's, Saturday's highlighted risk, good time to stay tuned to your weather. All risks possible for all days at this point, so got to stay tuned to that. And then getting into the tropics, this should be the last highlighted area for today. But we do have tropical depression, or potential tropical cyclone 16, that has just been issued out in the western Atlantic right now. Only doing 35-mile-an-hour winds right now, but expected to go tropical here in a little bit, and then potentially hit the coastal Carolinas as a tropical storm. Just below hurricane status, so hurricane you need 74 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour doing 60-mile-an-hour winds as it hits North Carolina there. But again, that is above severe limits, so you could potentially see some power outages, some trees down, and some very heavy rain as that tracks into the Carolinas. Then it should curve up through Virginia and then back out into the Atlantic into early next week. But regardless, that means Saturday we have yet another area to watch here. Got tropical storm watches in effect through most of the coast of South Carolina, and then we start our tropical storm warnings all the way up through the North Carolina coast, the Virginia coastline, working our way into Maryland as well with that potential tropical cyclone that we're watching. So we'll update you guys tomorrow on rainfall totals, wind speed predictions, etc. as that moves up into Saturday once we know more specifics. But for now, just know that that is on the horizon into the early part of this weekend. So that was a ton to cover today, but if you guys want any more info or just want to stay tuned to your weather risks, you can follow us on all our socials here. We're at Hail Trace on everything, so it's super easy to find us. And then if you guys want to get in contact with us or want access to any of our severe weather mapping products, go ahead and scan the QR code up above me or click the link in the description. If you want more info, you can give us a call anytime at 855-334-4245. Email us at info@hailtrace.com or check out hailtrace.com for more details. And we'll be back tomorrow at noon Central to give you guys more info and updates. But for now, I'm meteorologist Andrea Myers. Thanks for watching.